Hi there, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome to the last part of reading Kojeve's notion of authority. Wasn't planned on. This is not pages. This is the appendix. He ended I'll simply just do it. Let's go here. He'll end the book with the main part. He says, instead of continuing general deductions, let us briefly study in an appendix the concrete case of political authority and the authority that exists in France of 1930 1942, the Marshal. And hence why we will look at that question here today in the appendix. Appendix 1. Analysis of the Marshal's authority. The advent of the Marshal to power is typical case of the spontaneous genesis of political authority. Let us see to which type of authority belongs that has as its support the person of the Marshal. Before the events of 1939-40, he was mainly known to the general public as the military leader, as the victor of the Battle of Verdun. He thus had a warrior's authority, that is to say, in our terminology, he acted as individual support for the authority of the master type. It is this authority of the master that propaganda emphasizes the most by presenting the Marshal to the people as the victor of Verdun. And it is mainly thanks to this authority of master that the Marshal can, in the political sphere, in the narrow sense of the word, act without giving explanations, without justifying his acts, without indicating their motives, their goals, or their consequences. That is to say, without explaining their meaning. But the nation's elite also knew the role played by the Marshal during the Army's mutinies of 1917. The political aspect of his military activity was highly appreciated. It was known that he was able to foresee events, to stop their development, and to reorganize the present with the future in mind. In other words, the Marshal also enjoyed the benefit of the authority of the leader, in the sense that we attribute the term. And it is to this authority of the leader that the Marshal claims adherence when he tells the people, I am leading you, follow me. It is this authority of the leader that is manifested by a project or a program, even one that is not understood by the people, and it is accepted without a reaction by the mere fact that it is articulated or supported by the Marshal. No, many politicians have tried to grab some of the leader's authority by claiming that they foresaw the defeat, or at least that they advised against going to war in anticipation of its outcome. The Marshal cannot found his authority of leader on such a prediction. But he was not involved in the outbreak of the war, and so he was not wrong. He did not show any lack of foresight. His authority as leader, acquired in 1917, therefore remained unsullied in 1940. So that's again the note of this on this question. Besides, the advanced age of the Marshal, the fact that he had already reached the pinnace of glory, and generally speaking, the obvious nobility of his character, all this contributed also to invest him with the authority of the judge. In the eyes of the nation, the Marshal is fundamentally disinterested, impartial, objective, that is to say, just, equitable, and honest. It is in order to consolidate this judge's authority that the Marshal pronounced at the very beginning of office the beautiful sentence, often repeated by the propaganda, I have made France a gift. I have made France a gift of my person. And it is by relying on this authority of judge that he could reach a decision in the case of the accused in the Rome trial, even before they had been tried by a court of law. Finally, the character, the behavior, and the essentially French lifestyle, the real and manifest essence of the Marshal, in concert with his age, have made his person an individual support of the authority of the father. It is this father's authority that the Marshal, and sometimes propaganda, shows in his paternal tone and attitude. And it is this authority of the Father that gives the people the certainty that by following the marshal as leader, by having a blind faith in him as master, by accepting him as judge, there will be no betrayal of either the immense interests of the day or of future perspectives, while loyally it maintained to the traditions of the past. We can therefore say that there was in 1940 a spontaneous genesis, not manifested by a vote of confidence, of a total political authority, with the marshal as individual support. Okay, let's do this right. We can therefore say that there was in 1940 a spontaneous generation, not manifest by a vote of confidence. So a spontaneous generation, but not voted by, there's no vote of confidence of a total political authority. There was a spontaneous genesis of a total political authority, with the marshal as individual support for all four types of pure authority in political form. No, the more meticulous investigation might reveal that particular nature of this total political authority, that is to say, the order of the four pure types, that is, implies the variants F, FLMJ, LMFJ, MLJF, and so on. And even that this order has changed over time. Okay, so therefore we have to look at a real more detailed investigation of him and his charge, decide which variance of this three combination total is, and how this order has even changed over time. Now let us see what has come of this total political authority as a result of this exercise. We can start with the authority of the master. Its proper sphere was war, a policy that is essentially and manifestly peaceful and pacifist, must inevitably weaken it, and then little by little annihilate. In turn, the marshal's advanced age prevents him from presenting himself to the people as an effective military leader of a possible war to come. No, if we want to preserve for the state the authority of the master, then a support must be found for this authority other than the person of the marshal. It seems that this is what led him to appoint the admiral as his successor. In fact, a person capable of exercising effective military command has to be to the fore in the case of a potential war to come. Note a theme of propaganda. The admiral has never been defeated. It is therefore mainly his authority as master that the propaganda wants to consolidate and generate. It therefore seems that the marshal will have to play down his authority as master, and this will require him to present some explanation to the people. Note, governmental authority, that is to say, the complex authority, master leader, that seems at the time of 1940 armistice to have been the type of ML type, is tending to be transformed into a government authority of the LM type, leader master type. The authority of the father, on the other hand, very strong from the start, remains unsullied. Measures felt to be non-French seem to be accepted by the people as voluntary and inconsequential tactical retreats. In any case, thanks to the support of the authority of the father, which remains intact, governmental authority still enjoys the benefit of the prestige which policies are essentially French, national, can have in France. As a matter of fact, the marshal and propaganda stress very well the traditional aspect, unquote, in brackets. Except that the specific importance, quote, of the past cannot be very impressive at this time. The present has reached such a deplorable point that the nation desires, before all else, to find a way out of it. In other words, that is to say, to move on, to penetrate into the future. The authority of the future equals the authority of the leader. It is therefore more powerful than that of the authority of the past, equals the authority of the father. Consequently, the total authority is, or will be not the type F, but the type L. In other words, LM, that towards. In other words, the authority of the father must not found, but must assist that of the leader. Let us now move to the authority of the judge. Certainly, nothing has managed to diminish the personal prestige of the. Nothing has managed to diminish the personal prestige of the marshal. His essential impartiality remains indisputable, but the effect exercised by this impartiality, as I say, of the real authority of the judge, seems to have weakened it. More note the unfortunate turn that the realm trials had taken. The equity of the marshal's judgment is recognized, but there is no doubt as to the possibility of putting it into practice. The same attitude prevails in the social sphere. The marshal is just, but the trusts are much stronger than he is. It seems, therefore, that the marshal cannot, or is no longer able to, found his global authority on punitive negation of the past and the present. That is to say, on the pure authority of the judge. The total political authority cannot, therefore, be of the type J actions leading to cause. Right? It is therefore a governmental authority, the authority of the leader and the master, that must serve as the basis for the authorities of the father and the judge. And it is the authorities of the leader that must take precedent in governmental authority. Total authority seems thus to be tending towards the type leader, master, father, judge, or perhaps leader, master, judge, father. No, it seems that at the moment, leaving aside the question of the future, the nation is less interested in the equity of the present than in preserving continuity with the totality of the past. It is indeed the type dash FJ, not the dash JF, that is at issue here. So, therefore, given that the question is, the issue is trying to maintain the totality of the past. Is not interested in equity of the present, then containing the totality of the past, right? Therefore, it's more father judge and not judge father as the secondary influences, right? That is issue here. During the pre-Laval era, the political authority that had a tendency to be divided between leader, judge, father, the marshal, and and master, the admiral. We have already seen that the separation between leader and master was undesirable, but it seems inevitable, given the age of the marshal. In any case, the authority of the admiral succeeding the marshal was meant to be the type leader, master, father, judge, or perhaps in this case, leader, master, judge, father. This type having a tendency to become, in the case of war, master, leader, judge, father. The present time, A 1942, the total political authority seems to have three important supports: leader, Laval, F, father, judge, the marshal, and M, the admiral. Again, the full extent of the actual reciprocal independence of these three supports is yet to be thought through. But the type of this authority is difficult to pin down. One, according to the nation's hope, this type should be the leader plus master plus father judge. Two, according to the personal authority, the type is indisputably father judge plus master plus leader. Three, a major part of the population believes it cannot be observed without regard that the real power of the type is leader plus father judge plus master. So there's three different possibilities here. This idea regarding hopes, the belief. In other words, the first thing is the nation's hopes. The according to personal authority, the personal authority of the three things, and the so therefore the three positions. It's Laval, Marshal, and the Admiral, right? Whatever case, the hierarchy of support does not coincide with of that of authorities. The authority of the leader, which is supported to be the strongest, has the weakest support of all. Okay? So therefore, that's the irony here, saying that where is it? Where is this? There's a bracket here. Okay, what is this bracket? There's a bracket, close bracket. Where does the open bracket begin? I don't see it there. Cool, thank you. I think that's an error here. Well, that's very strange. Okay, let's continue. It is therefore the authority of the leader which seems to serve as the basis for the total political authority of the marshal, as the consequent of his existence. And it seems that this authority of leader has withstood the test of a test of its effective exercise even today. A project or a program presented by the marshal would be accepted without any reaction, owing to the mere fact that he is the person proposing it, except that the authority of the leader, being as the authority of the future, that is to say, of the project, cannot be exerted in the present without an explanation. That is to say, without relating present acts to a future defined in a future defined in, and by a political program. Right? A leader cannot indefinitely remain leader without articulating a well-defined project, a developed program proposing the transformation of the present with a determined future in mind. But it must be said, that until now the marshal has not yet articulated any political program truly worthy of this name, or of the authority that he still enjoys today. Far from confirming his authority as leader, his activity, devoid of a program known to the nation, and having as consequence an aspect of that is purely opportunistic, puts a great strain on this authority. So the opportunistic, in other words, he has not given a project. The marshal has not given a project. And it looks opportunistic, and this puts a strain on the authority of the argument. Certainly, the topos, the logical place for such a program, already exists under the name Revolution Nationale. But we must confess that this place is still empty. So therefore, there is such a program. There is a logical place for this in this Revolution Nationale, but it's still empty. There's nothing there. In the second appendix, we shall say a few words about the Revolutionary Nationale. Let us now end this first appendix by saying that the analysis of the marshal's authority leads to the following conclusions. One, the order in order for the Revolution Nationale to come into being, it needs the authority of the marshal. Only a program supported by the quadruple authority of the marshal stands a chance of being accepted by the nation, if only as a program. Two, the authority of the marshal needs the Revolutionary Nationale, if only in the form of it, a defined constructive program, that is to say, of a political idea, to be able to preserve itself without undergoing alteration. So these two conditions. No, we can also say that the authority of the marshal represents at the moment a political idea. So the authority of the marshal represents it. In other words, the mere authority of this becomes a political idea. But every idea withers away if it is not realized, or if it does not at least tend towards realizing itself. And yet, an idea that is being realized is only called an idea in the sense of a concrete and constructive idea that generates action, transforming the given in accordance with the idea. The latter is transformed as a result of its realization, no less than the given. So the marshal must therefore cease to be an ideal to become a political leader. So in other words, right now his authority seems to be that he's the idea of the marshal is the political idea. So far, his being is the only thing that makes him an idea, and therefore this idea becomes the justification of his authority, his program. But that's not it. It's the real future of a leader is this program, right? And it is this means that he must pronounce and put into practice a program for the Revolution Nationale. Remarks on the Revolution Nationale. This is number two, right? This is the so therefore we get the end of the discussion of the Marshal. Now we get the remarks on the Revolution Nationale. We give the name revolution to an active transformation of the political present in accordance with the future. This transformation implies a negation of the given present. That is to say, it is not simple development of what has already been implied in an embryonic state in the latter. So therefore, it's not simply just it is a transformation. It's not something. It is not simply a development of what was already been implied in the latter. In other words, it's a real change. It's not something. It's something was already there. It was there in embryonic state and has grown up to. It's not that. It is moving from this condition to this condition. Right. That's what I'm doing. And the future must therefore not be understood in the strong and proper sense of the term. That is to say, as that which has not yet and which has not already been. So it is not yet and which has not already been, right? The revolution is national when the active transformation of the political present is carried out without any solution of continuity with the totality of the past. Without any solution of continuity with the totality of the past. We said is national when the active transformation of the political present is carried out without any solution of continuity with the totality. The immediate past can and must be negated because it is this past that directs the natural or automatic evolution of the present in a direction different from that which the revolution action wants to assign to it. This definition fixes the framework of Revolution Nationale. It indicates its logical place, its Aristotelian topos, period. Its logical place, topos, right? It is a question of giving context to this topos. So the topos is located. This context can be called the revolutionary idea. The revolutionary idea is a theory or a doctrine, as far as possible, coherent and in principle universal. That is to say, allowing all concrete cases to be deduced, which can and must generate the action and transformation of the political present and create the political future. The idea triggers action by enunciating a project, by indicating a goal, and it determines and guides actions by elaborating a program. So therefore, enunciates a project, it introduces a goal, and it guides, and it determines and guides action of towards that goal by elaborating a program. In order not to be utopian, this project and program must take into account the political present while setting themselves against it. They must be realized from the point of view of the given present and not by supposing non existent conditions. In other words, you have to take the reality of the now, not be determined by the reality of now, but to overcome it or change it, but understanding that the conditions are this and you have to work through it. It must be said that in May 1942, France does not have a revolutionary idea, while accepting the topos of the national revolution. No, we generally complain about the fact that the Revolution Nationale is not yet realized or completed, but a revolution is never realized. And it, insofar as something is realized, that this something ceases to be revolutionary. The revolution is always something that is being realized, that is in the process of becoming. And what is being realized by the negation action of the given is precisely the revolutionary idea. So therefore, this would say, what is being realized by the negation action of the given, the now, is precisely the revolutionary idea. So what is being realized by the negation of the now given is this future, right? One must therefore complain about the absence not of a new political reality, but of a revolutionary idea. What is the goal? What is the idea in that sense of this? And it is with the elaboration of this idea we should begin. I do not I do not make any claim to be able to propose a national revolutionary idea to France in 1942. The preceding analysis and deductions are, moreover, not sufficient for doing this. They can at best serve as a starting point for studies capable of leading to the elaboration of such a constructive revolutionary idea. So therefore, I'm not going to propose it. I'm in no position to propose it. I can't do this. What I'm doing here is providing the means that someone can do this, right? But we can straight away make a very general remark that is, so to speak, of a methodological nature. If we are presented with a revolutionary situation, that is to say, if we are standing before a nation ready to abandon a present determined by an immediate past and to contribute to the active, that is to say, creative realization of a present that will serve as a foundation for a future different from the one that would have emerged from it without the intervention of the negation action, while remaining attached to the totality of the past. It is in our interest to exploit the situation. So therefore, this whole thing here is about what? It is saying that I'm going. Okay, this present is determined by the immediate past, the defeat by the Germans' defeat of you. It is not. Therefore, what we're doing is we're overcoming this. We're negating this with a plan for a future that is a negation of this, but it's still in conformity with our past. It's not a complete revolution, change from a negation of our total past, but just this immediate, the present and the immediate past. It can be exploited by presenting the nation with a revolutionary idea. But if we do not yet have such an idea at our disposal, or if whatever reason we do not want or cannot enunciate it, it puts it straight away into practice. We have to situate the existence of this idea. So we have to what? If we don't have the idea, we have to situate the existence of that idea. A revolutionary situation can be preserved only under the condition that it becomes a revolutionary action. So the revolutionary situation can only be preserved if it becomes an action, right? A revolutionary situation can only become an action. The latter is nothing other than the process of realization of the revolutionary idea. So the action is the realization of that idea, right? That the situation is the condition by which action emerges, and the action is the realization of that idea. And without idea, there is no revolutionary action, properly speaking. That is to say, no creation of a truly new political reality. But a sacralum, okay, this is Latin. I always hate these Latinisms. Similarity, right? But a similarity of an idea that generates a similarity of a revolutionary action. And this pseudo revolutionary activity can contribute towards the preservation, for a certain time, of of a revolutionary situation, without which no true revolutionary action is possible. So, in other words, without this situation, there's no true action is possible. So, I need what? What is he saying here? That I can, the sacrament of an idea, the similarity of an idea can generate a similarity, a sacrament, something that's similar to it, a reactionary. And this pseudo revolutionary activity can contribute towards the preservation for a certain time of the situation. So it preserves the situation. In other words, I get something a saculum. It means it's a kind of something similar to this. It's not not the thing, not a idea itself, but something that is kind of pseudo idea. Okay, it is in order not to lapse back into inertia. That is to say, the automatic prolongation of the immediate past via the present into the future. So therefore, this is not inertia. Inertia, right? Is this doing nothing, having no present? Therefore, this is continuing. The nation must at least have the impression that is acting in accordance with the revolutionary idea. And it is this impression that the presence of the saculum of the idea must preserve. So the idea that, and that's what the revolutionary idea that not defined, not done, it is just merely a saculum. It's kind of thing that it's not really. It's the beginning. It needs to be kind of more substantive than be an idea in that sense. A saculum presents the form while changing or eliminating the content. So therefore, this is a saculum preserves the form. So this has the form of it, either changing or eliminating the content of the idea. It is therefore a question of presenting the nation with political forms that have a revolutionary appearance, while attributing its non-offensive content to them. That is to say, either no content at all or one that is non-revolutionary, i.e., one that is compatible with the present given, with the given division of political forces and possibilities. In other words, a new type of state or political authority has to be created, because a revolution is nothing other than the replacements of one given type of authority with another. Even if we have to make the new institutions work in neutral, without any real efficacy, reserving the possibility of replacing them without any serious resistance with others if the real revolutionary action of the future requires this. It would seem easier to find such a saculum of the national revolutionary idea than to propose this idea itself. So therefore, it's easier to give a saculum of this idea than rather than give the idea. I do not make any claim even to propose such a saculum of a revolutionary idea, but it seems to me that the preceding analysis and deduction can, provide that they are discussed and further elaborated, constitute to its development. Let us see, by the way of this example, what political form, constitution, a state realizing the political authority of this type of LM-F-J, total but divided into three, would have. No, we have not. We shall not specify specifically. Sorry, we shall not specify the relation between the authorities F and J. In other words, no clear distinction between the variants LM-FJ and LM-JF will be provided. The authority of LM is governmental authority, the global political authority, the state being that of the leader type. It is the government that is prevalent here. In other words, it is from the government that the initiatives proceed. Within governmental authority, it is authority L that prevails. Supposing that authority LM has an individual support, this means only that the government is inspired by, or claims to be inspired by, primarily the revolutionary idea. That is to say, the future, and not by the interest of the day. Military force must be the service of this civil future rather than seeking to determine it. The support of the authority leader master, being individual, the head of the state is leader of the government, authority L, and that of leader of the army, authority M. But it need arise if he is supposed to wage war in order to be able to govern, and not able to govern, not to govern to be able to, in any course to wage war. The words in that sense. So let's repeat this sentence again. The support of the authority leader LM being individual. The person of the head state is leader of the government, authority L, as well as leader of the army M. But if needs arise, he is supposed to wage war in order to be able to govern, not to govern to be able to wage war. So, in other words, so that his authority should be leader to that, not war leader to govern, right? So therefore, that's why the L before the M. The head of state transmits delegates to his government, civil and military, authority by nomination, although he does not nominate his successor. He nominates his state secretaries by himself. The latter enjoys authority L, legislative, leader as legislative, and are required to elaborate the details, concrete applications of the revolutionary idea, to draft legislation, and so on. He nominates respectively the ministers who enjoy the benefits of authority M, executive, who must realize the project of the state secretaries who nominated them. These ministers also nominate their respective civil servants. So therefore, like the structure. The authority of the head of state is generally spontaneous. It is manifested by the vote of confidence of the manifest assembly, whose members have been nominated by its predecessors, which can only refuse this vote without being able to propose another candidate. This same assembly confirms the authority of the state secretaries, the ministers, and the main civil servants, after having spent 3, 6, and 12 months exercising their functions respectively, still without having any powers to oppose their own candidates for these posts. Besides the secretaries of state, the head of state nominates 2 state ministers not confirmed by the assembly. One of them is given the responsibility of representing the government before the state censor, the Senate, the Senate censor. That is to say, of putting to the vote laws elaborated by the state secretaries and accepted by the head of state. His role is to provide the Senate with the necessary explanations. The other has the responsibility of a liaising agent between the government and the political tribunal, acting as political public prosecutor in the case where the government or the Senate wishes to bring someone before the tribunal. So therefore, censor like this, right? Structure. The Senate censor, which nominates, if need arises, the censor civil servant, is constituted by representatives elected in a series of successive votes of all the heads of families possessing a landed inheritance. It will be given the responsibility of ensuring that the revolutionary legislative activity of the government does not interrupt the continuity of political tradition. It can reject a law but not propose any. So therefore, that's the Senate consensus, Senate censor. From the families like this. Um, it can reject a law but not propose. The political tribunal presided over a case by treason, as I say, acts liable either to change the type of state or to compromise the future of the nation. Its judgment is guided only by the political conscience of the judges, who can choose between distinction and death penalty. It can rule on its own. It can rule on its own incompetence. The members of the tribunal are elected by universal suffrage, i.e., selected at random among all citizens, men and women, politically adult, and politically healthy. So, okay. Hold the right opinions, right? Okay, politically adults, certain age, and politically healthy. Now, what does it mean by politically healthy? Holding the right opinions, not rebellion. The tribunal can nominate, if needs arise, tributes or judges, civil servants. It does not take the initiative of pronouncing a judgment, that is to say, making an accusation. Practically, it does not intervene except in the case of a severe conflict between the head of state and the state secretary supported by the state minister. So the condition of the state and the secretary supported by the state ministers. This structure of the state takes into consideration only the phenomena of authority, overlooking completely the phenomena of work, and yet both must be taken into account. So therefore, the state founded on work, see brief article on work, which is interesting. Hold on. This could be a reference to a study that hasn't been found in Kojeve paper yet. Also possible that the study was integrated in its phenomenology of right, which includes substantial passages on work from a judicial perspective. Right. So okay, work. Every political authority is generated from within corporations. It is therefore the Supreme Council of urban corporations, peasant corporations emanating politically from the Senate, corporations emanating politically from the Senate, that propose the candidate for the function of head of state. And it is from among the candidates proposed by this council that the head of state chooses his secretaries of state, who in turn choose ministers. And these ministers then choose the civil servants. So bum, 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 bum. So therefore, every political authority is generated from within corporations. Therefore, the Supreme Corporation of the urban corporation, peasant corporations emanating from the political authority of the Senate, that proposes a candidate for the function of the head of state. It is among the candidates proposed by this council that the head of state chooses his state secretaries, and who then choose ministers, and these ministers choose their servants. In so far as this external situation makes it impossible to do without an army, the internal situation makes it possible to do without an army. The state must be founded not only on work, but on risk, that is to say, military power. Consequently, the army must share in political authority. The candidate for the post of the head of state must therefore be proposed in concert by the Supreme Council of Corporations and the Supreme Council of the Army. It is from among the candidates they propose, the head of state chooses a secretary of war and for the colonies. During peacetime, it is the candidate for the council of the council or corporations appointed by the council, approved by the council of the army, who presents himself before the manifest assembly in order to obtain the vote of confidence. In time of war or danger of war, it is the candidate proposed by the council of the army who presents himself as candidate after being approved by the council of corporations. So therefore, it doesn't go. Let us note that government authority of this type, of the leader master type in peacetime, and that of the master leader type in wartime. The danger of potential war can be certified by the manifest assembly, and this should result in the resignation of civil leaders and the presentation of military candidates. But the assembly cannot deny the danger of possible wars. Cannot deny the danger of possible war certified by the government, which must lead to the resignation of its leader insofar as he is not already a military man. So in other words, if he's not a military man, if there's a war, if there's a crisis, the civil leader has to a resignation of the civilian leader and presentation of military candidate. Right? So therefore, he's not a military man, so he has to step down. The state of peace is decided by the military head of state, who must, in a consequence of this statement, give up his position to the civil candidate 6 months after the cessation of hostilities, or 1 year after a year of possible war danger, without actual hostilities. The Senate can certify the state of peace, and by this statement make the military head of state resign. But the assembly can, despite the statement, certify an act of a state of war. The final word to decide upon the definitive statement lies with the tribunal. So the tribunal will decide this ultimately. I mean, in the sense that if there's a dispute, therefore, what is the assembly? The assembly can determine it's a sign of peace, or the assembly can so determine who consequently is upheld 6 months after this danger. The Senate can certify the state of peace, right? But the assembly can, despite its statement, also certify. So this assembly is it the Senate? The Senate? That's weird. This is where it's unclear. The final word is to decide upon the definitive statement lies with the tribunal, which is ultimate judge. And here ends. This is Alexandre Kojeve, Marseille, 16 of May, 1942. This is the marshal. This ends it. Now, if you have any comments or questions, please put it below. I will expect to hear from you about, I like it, didn't like it, I think it's stupid, or any comments of this ending the Kojeve analysis. If you have any other things, now, if you liked it, like it, share it with a friend, share it with on your social media. If you didn't like it, say no, but say something, put a comment on. If you have not subscribed, subscribe. If you know someone who would like to subscribe, bring your attention to a friend and encourage them to subscribe. I like to grow the channel some, so do subscribe. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on social media. The links are below. If you want to help financially or something, you can do so by becoming a member. Subscribe to our Patreon. Okay, yes, this has been kind of embarrassing. That don't have any. Okay, you don't do anything on it. I don't do anything on it because no one's there. If it's built, something will happen. But if you build it, they will come, right? Um, Second is the other thing is that below there are links to the way you can help me is by buying one of my books. The links are listed below. Again, this wraps up the reading Kojeve. These are posted on Monday, Tuesdays. The Montesquieu stuff is posted on, or at least other things are posted Monday or Wednesdays. And Friday is going to be a live stream or some kind of fun messing around. Usually messing around or a live stream. Okay, that's it. Well, take care. Bye-bye. Have a good day.